Welcome to CLIC Connect. I'm your host, Craig. We've got our returning champion, Bruce Ford, joining us today. But before we bring Bruce out, I would like to thank our production partner, Red Roof Franchising, for all of their support from the beginning. And if you're looking for a new brand, they could be a great alternative for you. Give Matthew Hostetler a call and let him know that producer Danny and I sent you. They'd love to hear from you. They've got a soft brand. They've got their extended stay brand. They've got a dual brand. They've got a new prototype. They've got their economy brand. So give Matt a call. They'd love to hear from you. Without any further ado, let's welcome back Mr. Lodging Econometrics, Mr. Bruce Ford. There he is.
Mr. Craig, how are you today?
I'm great, brother. How about you?
Well, I've returned from New York with 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 legs, and 2 arms, so I'm doing good.
You weren't on the subways, were you?
I was not. It was me and my Uber.
There you go. Gotta love Ubering in that city. You know,
But
it's easy.
Exciting to be with the industry for a couple days in New York at one of our larger trade fairs. And boy, there was some exciting things happening. Never mind the weather that almost touched 60 degrees each day, which was quite nice for New York in November.
Yes.
Can't complain about that.
There you go. You know, well, we know one New Yorker that is because he had to close up his pool, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Has he been home for more than 20 minutes in the past 2 months? Or
I don't think so.
Okay.
So
Didn't seem like it. I think he was taking that around the U.S. flight on Delta, 5 times the charm, something like that. Just keep moving.
Like yeah,
just keep
exactly. Moving. So, Bruce, tell us what's going on in the pipeline. You know, we've got new construction. We know the construction costs have escalated dramatically, you know, since COVID. What's happening?
Well, we've got announcements, Craig.
Okay.
We have lots of announcements. And if you tuned in to any of the conference calls from any of the franchise companies that are publicly traded over the past several weeks, you know that they've talked about a lot of things entering the pipeline. And that is all true. Okay. To an extent, it's true. Okay. Of course, we have to monitor those multiple property agreements that you do with one developer or multiple developers because, you know, we might have been able to build 6 or 8 hotels at a time pre-pandemic. We certainly can't do that right now. So many of these projects that are entering the pipeline have elongated timelines for opening. And then the projects that are scheduled to begin, we're still seeing a lot of delays. People kind of deciding not to decide, deferring out a little bit, seeking clarity. And this is absolutely real estate cycle typical as to where we are right now. You know, my dad used to say right here, over here, my dad used to say, well, you got to pull out your old playbooks because the story doesn't change. Okay. And the 2 playbooks I have on my desktop right now are 1993 and 2003.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, you remember in 93, we called it the SNL crisis, right? And that's not Saturday Night Live, Craig.
Yeah, I know that.
So now it's the CMBS crisis.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think what many people are doing is preparing, okay, to rather than invest in those new construction projects, I want to sign them. I want to put them under control. I want to have them as the next thing. But right now, I'm going to focus on what can I buy at a discount, renovate, and reposition, and how quickly is that going to happen? So that is the number one topic out there for investment right now, which, of course, is driving the other thing that's happening in the pipeline, which is a historic high of renovations and conversion projects. A lot of these signings the franchise companies are speaking about is the signing of an existing hotel to convert to one of their brands.
Right.
And what we are seeing is the speed with which those conversions are occurring continues to accelerate. Now, why would that be, Craig? Does that mean that they're taking the product in without the renovation being completed? Well, that would be a winner.
That would be
Okay.
a winner for sure. And I think some of the brands are doing that. So
Well, and they feel like they need to, because distribution is very key right now,
exactly.
considering all of the new brands that we have, literally dozens and dozens and dozens of brands. And I think we had a new one last week. This is a real thing. Okay. And so as a result, the stratification of your portfolio can truly only be locked in by growing the number of locations.
Right.
And you got to do it as fast as possible. So, in the sales group inside of those franchise companies, they're back to full employment again
Right.
for the most part. As a matter of fact, in some of them, they might have more people working
Yeah.
on sales than they did prior to the pre pandemic time, because you have to get to a lot more owners quickly. And in some cases, they don't own 5, 6, 27 hotels, they have a few.
Yeah.
And trying to get there as quick as possible is key. The hotel companies have been um, buoyed by high stock prices. Okay. And as a result, they continue to perform uh, with the signings. And that's how they're taking in the money, and the conversion. And that's how they're taking in the money. But new construction pipeline, we did report growth again in the second quarter, Craig, but it's growth because we're not opening enough. The
Right.
openings continue to be delayed. So we are seeing pipeline growth. We're not at a historic high. As a matter of fact, we're well beyond 20% away from that. So at this point, signings will continue, but openings need to pick up the pace. And although we've opened many beautiful hotels this year, which we're very excited to be working on the committee for CLIC this year for nominating the development project of the year in the state of California.
Yep.
And of course, I'm also doing that nationally with the Alice development of the year. But I was looking at the list yesterday and talking to people as we were kind of working the room around the show I was at in New York. And holy cow, we got a lot of great hotel projects that have opened this year that were long delayed.
Yeah. You and I walked past one several times recently in Los Angeles that opened up earlier this year.
And I think that's going to be, one of the good ones.
Yeah.
That one should certainly be near the top of the list. So the new construction signings continue to grow, but the pipeline starts are not where they should be, and the pipeline openings are not where they should be. So at this point, I think it's important to really pay attention to what is happening with the existing real estate that is open in your marketplace.
Yeah.
What is potentially stressed and distressed? What is potentially going to renovate? What is potentially going to convert? But there is one area out there that's really kind of a shining star right now, Craig. And of course, that's when is the transaction market going to pick up?
Right.
Okay. And I'm sure that you've had many owner developers and investment people on CLIC Connect over the past several months that have said, I am ready. I've got my cash ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. When's it coming? Because the last couple times, the distress that was expected didn't materialize.
Correct. Correct.
I don't think that's going to be the case this time, because there's not going to be a bailout from the government. There's not going to be a bailout, period. So these hotels are going to have to go through a natural progression of either special servicing or perhaps transactions before the debt matures. One way or another, it's going to need to happen.
I agree with you. And I think, part of that's going to be note sales. It's,
Yep.
I think, the community banks and the larger banks that I'm talking to right now, they've either recently completed stress testing their portfolio or they're in the process of that. I know in 2008, I was one of the original investors of a community bank, and we had 2 problem hotel assets. We ended up selling the notes, but we didn't discount them.
Yep.
The biggest issue we had in our portfolio was we had 2 of them, actually. Too many hotel loans, but the other one was the C store with a car wash. And, those were really the problem children that we had within our portfolio at the bank. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Some
I think
people were
special
talking
service.
about the mezzanine debt too, and how to getting to foreclosure on mezzanine
Yeah.
can happen a lot faster
Yeah.
than a traditional long-term mortgage.
Yeah, especially in the mortgage states. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
luckily, California, and I don't know why this hasn't happened across the country, is a trust deed state. Three-party, it's the beneficiary, the trustor, and the trustee, and the trustee does a non-judicial foreclosure. It's a much easier process than Florida, New York, your part of the country, and various others that are mortgage states.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier to move those things out off your books.
So the cost of debt is one reason that this is happening, but the second reason that this is happening, okay, is a pandemic market condition where renovations were allowed to be deferred.
Yep.
Okay. So as a result, the franchise companies have declared we've been to all the hotels now and we've looked around and they're in terrible condition. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was said on the stage in New York by a very senior designer inside of Marriott is they have 2,400 renovations on the deck for the next 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
2,400, Craig. And
And
if you're
that's
adding that up
everything.
in the
It's
United
select
States,
service.
if you're adding that up, that's almost half of their portfolio.
Wow.
Okay. And then when I visited with another franchise company, he said that's conservative. Okay. So I think the amount of renovation truly is being driven by the pandemic deferrals. But then also, Craig, as I've talked to you about personally, and I would say this out loud on CLIC Connect for the first time, we built 1 million guest rooms between 2003 and 2008.
Yeah.
And all of those hotels are now 14 to 20 years old.
Yeah.
And they're in line for that major rehab anyway. Never mind what was deferred.
Yeah.
Okay. So the spend is really going to be at existing hotels, and the opportunities for our suppliers and service providers is going to be at the individual hotels. And if you're an owner and management company in the market that is looking around, it is as important, if not more important, to understand what is the timeline to complete on these renovations and conversions from my top competitors.
Yeah. I think that's paramount with everybody, but you're also forgetting we've got M&A season, and you've got a major hotel management company that if they don't announce a merger and increased room count, it'll be the first time in their history. So we've got a lot of that going on as well. And I just wonder, where's the priority? Is it going to be the M&A side, or is it going to be the actual transaction? And let's get these hotels in and start the renovation. And as you well know, you've got supply issues, especially if things are being made in China, because we've got Chinese New Year coming up. So if you're not in the queue, that's a delay. Do you have competent general contractors out there? Because they've got to be running. Yeah, exactly. So do you now have to start looking at relationships with somebody else because they can't take it on? You and I both know an owner operator that's got a major construction company, and they were getting to the point with all their business that they couldn't even build their own hotels. Yeah. So it's
well, I started to hear both sides of that now, because I started to also hear that in some locations, and again, this is not nationally and this is not everywhere, okay, but in some locations, contractors are not busy. Okay, in some of those markets, a Pacific Northwest was pointed out to me. The north central part of the country was pointed out to me. Certainly not the Southeast, and certainly not Southern California, and certainly not in the Middle Atlantic United States. But there are places where the contractors have gone through or ripped through their renovations and new constructions that they're doing, because they're being affected too. If you build and renovate,
right,
there's no new builds.
Yeah.
Okay. And so as a result, you've got to find other ways to get to it. And renovations are not for everybody, because it takes a different kind of scheduling. It takes a different kind of method and procedure. And keeping in mind, you have an operating hotel.
Yeah.
It must stay open and must, continue to have guests. So that's all different kind of likelihood. But Craig, I'm feeling sage worthy today because, this is coming. How many years have I been talking about this now?
It's been a while. We've both been, you and I were both preaching, during the pandemic, get your renovations done now. You didn't
because
have the guest impact and everything else.
yeah, it
So
would be a lot easier to borrow at 3% than it is to borrow at 8, right? Don't you think?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my pocketbook says that every day.
The
Yeah.
squeeze is real. Okay. So that's definitely a market condition that is likely. And we're gonna put something out there pretty soon here. Next, probably by the time this comes out, but the goal is to also talk about those major convention markets and what's the condition going on there, because I've also concluded that for the most part, the large full service high end renovations are done. Okay. There's still going to be conversions. There's still going to be activity at the conversion transaction level. But for the most part, you've renovated your big full service city center hotels because the convention and meeting business for 2024 is scheduled to be the best year in the history of the hotel business, because it's the last year that you're going to be able to use those deposits that you put on file during the pandemic for events you didn't do. So as a result, you got to either spend it or lose it. So the city convention center authorities and the meetings business report that the bookings are great for 2024, and that's going to be a boon. And if you're a full service hotel, you better be ready to capture that demand. So this pushes us more towards the select service properties being the renovation and conversion darlings of the next 2 years. 400,000 rooms a year, Craig, 24 and 25 in the United States for sure.
Wow. Nice. How about the industry favorite right now? Let's talk about extended stay. What have you got for us on that construction side and that renovation side? What's going on there?
So you had a new brand from Marriott, you had a new brand from Hilton, you have 2 new brands from Hilton and extended stay, you have a new brand from Choice and extended stay, you have a new one from Wyndham and extended stay. And extended stay, okay, two things to point out here. First of all, it is not it is absolutely subjected to the construction cost increase that we've spoken about, and the cost to borrow, and adding up construction costs and borrowing costs. The cost to develop a hotel can be up plus over 40% from 2018. So that's a significant issue. But extended stay offers that such minimized operating model that in some cases we're seeing those extended stay dual brand properties with a good select service hotel next to it actually happening. And some of those are happening because they're just A++. And being able to do both kinds of brands at a reasonable size building. And maybe those properties are getting a bit smaller, where maybe you built 125 keys and 125 keys. Maybe you're only doing 85 keys and 85 keys. So I think the platform of the type of prototype there is modified a little bit, but the dual branding has been a huge boom to extended stay, and we're going to continue to see that to be the darling of new construction going forward, as many of those projects are actually getting off the ground, because the cost to construct is up, but the cost to operate is very manageable at those hotels, and you don't really have to hire that many people to operate those. So it's doable in this cycle. And they also help with the in some cases with housing crisis in some marketplaces too. I know that's not something everybody wants to talk about, but it's a reality in some places.
Absolutely, it is, and and I think that's one of the benefits to an extended stay property.
Yep.
I mean, this as well as I do, Bruce, that in time of emergency, it's our community that steps up first. We bring in the firefighters off the line when they need a rest. They stay at our hotels, and if they can cook themselves a meal, they're usually pretty happy with that. I mean, granted, you may not want to, eat in the room every day, but you've got that opportunity, and a good night's sleep, and you're not in a camp somewhere, doing
Right.
wildfire like we've got here.
In the way that I use my extended stay hotels, Mac Jones goes on one TV that I don't watch, and then a game that I actually want to watch goes on a different TV.
Oh, I wasn't even going to go there. Okay. Oh my God.
I am not entertained by my Patriots this year, Craig.
Yeah, and I'd be worried about you if you were, brother.
I've moved on to basketball. Give me a Celtics game any night of the week. I'm good.
Well, was that Wilt Chamberlain that I saw on your desk next to your dad?
Oh, that's Larry Bird, buddy.
Oh, okay.
That's the first time he won when Red was still around.
There you go.
It was. Turned out to be a pretty good sunset behind us there, my friend.
There you go. Okay, what was the latest thing that you took out of BDNY that you think was a game changer?
Well, just those amount of renovations that people talked about, the spend at the existing property. The challenge there is that some of the owners are going to need to try and do some of this out of cash flow.
Yeah.
Because if you had your CapEx plan in 2018 and 2019, you saved a certain amount of money, okay, that hopefully if you held on to it during the pandemic, okay, it's still 20% short of what you need to complete that renovation because of the inflationary cost change. So in some cases, kind of getting it all done has got to come out in phases.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a real thing. And that can be a drag on some of the service providers. And it can be a drag on some of the product providers, because if you're going to manufacture furniture, you got to build it all at once, and then you got to store it, and then you got to get paid for it. So it presents some new challenges. So shipping and logistics, I think, is going to be a very big key to how this renovation cycle is going to occur. And there's more of those companies out there than ever before. And some of those companies can even do some, some purchasing and possession of product for some of those owners as well. So I think that those companies will have their time to shine right now, if for nothing else. So
absolutely.
Also from BDNY, there are more small firms out there doing design and development, and we'll call it a little bit more of light design, or not overly remaking the asset, but yet being able to provide enough service to get through the brand approval process. And many of those people used to work for brands, so they understand the process to get that done. And there's more of those companies out there. So don't necessarily think you have to go through the traditional method. There's probably some smaller size firms that can help you. We see new ones of them every day.
Great advice, Bruce. This is why I love having you on towards the end of the year. It's our tradition on CLIC Connect to bring Bruce out before the holidays and talk about what's going on the market. Then we bring him back again, usually Q1, and he gets to project what's happening and give you an update. So, Bruce, thank you very much for rejoining the conversation today. How can everybody get a hold of you?
So you can find us on Facebook, Lodging Econometrics. We're on LinkedIn as well. And of course, you can find me personally, and email is bruce@lodgingeconometrics.com. I'm always happy to hear from the constituency out there. If you have anything to add, or you're interested in more information about any numbers that I talked about today, we're happy to participate.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.
Happy holidays, Craig. Great to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you. Take care, Bruce. Thank you, our audience. But before we sign off, producer Danny's going to drop in a graphic. We would like to thank the International Hospitality Institute for this award. It means a lot to us, and it's all because of you, our audience, our guests, and most importantly, my producer, Danny, who just, she really works hard on this show and puts together a great product for everybody. So, but thank you to the International Hospitality Institute, and also congratulations to all the other recipients. We'll be back soon with another episode, but I do want to thank our production partner, Red Roof Franchising. They've been with us from the beginning. Give Matt Hostetler a call. They could be a great alternative brand for you. They can help you out. Also, March 6th and 7th, 2024 is our 7th annual California Lodging Investment Conference. Bruce Ford will be there. He's our opening keynote. He is also chairing our committee for the California Hotel Development Deal of the Year. So join us. We've got some great panels for you, great speakers, and information that you need. So join us. If you're in the California hotel market or want to be, this is the one event you should be attending. And again, that's March 6th and 7th, 2024 at the Westin South Coast Plaza Hotel, and you can register at cliconference.com. So I'm fond of saying, be kind, share your knowledge, now go be amazing.